Why do you suppose people say they hate Hillary Clinton? As we're coming up to the second debate, I think it's something we ought to all think about. Is it because of some kind of partisanship? Is it because of the emails when we know there are emails that were dumped by the Bush administration that numbered a lot more and dealt with a lot more secret things than anything that her emails dealt with? Though Trump and the others have tried to turn this into something major, it's really not. No matter what was in the emails in the private servers. So she got rid of some of them. The reason she did was because they were nobody's business. So I think it's important to understand what really is behind this. We go on about how untrustworthy she is. Well, fact checkers rank her as the second most honest, prominent politician in the country. Her opponent, for sure, and we see more and more, is considered the least honest politician in the country because he's really not a politician. He's just a con man. We decry her ties. Decry, that means we don't like. We say they're bad. Ties to the financial industry and corporations. And we support a walking tax shelter. And we mourn the exit of a president whose reelection was funded by record-shattering Wall Street haul, basically. We list so many problems, so many explanations for Trump and for George Bush, too, and all of them are complete crap. The Hillary haters resent her more than they disagree with her. It isn't that they don't like what she has to, what she represents, it's that they resent the fact she is a woman and she's deigning to get on the political stage that men are supposed to occupy. Even a lot of women feel that way. They regard her with an unprecedented degree of suspicion. After all, they want to see her punished because she is a woman who has stepped out of her position. But bad news for the haters. History is decidedly unafraid of women moving into positions of power. It doesn't care how many people will stand on tables today and swear they'd feel the same if she were a man. It will see us for what we are. History will. A sick society driven by misogyny and pathetically struggling to come to terms with the fact that women do not exist solely to nurture or to please men or to serve men. If that answer isn't as nuanced as the average think piece, that's because we as a people aren't. No matter how many branches have formed, they all emerge from the same seed, which was planted way back when Bill Clinton first ran for governor. She wouldn't be so suspicious of the press or so measured in her presentation or so any one of the 1,000 other things if she'd been born a man. The lengths we go to in order to rationalize this all will be seen in history in retrospect as extraordinarily and incredibly wrong-headed. When the Bush administration was discovered to have erased millions of emails illegally sent by 22 administration officials through private Republican National Committee-owned accounts in order to thwart an investigation into the politically motivated firing of 8 U.S. attorneys, just one talk show mentioned it. When Mitt Romney wiped servers, sold government hard drives to his closest aides, and spent $100,000 in taxpayer money to destroy his administration's emails when he was governor, nobody even mentioned it hardly. When Hillary Clinton asked Colin Powell how he managed to use a BlackBerry while serving as Secretary of State, he replied by detailing his method of intentionally bypassing federal record keeping. I didn't have a BlackBerry. What I did was have a personal computer that was hooked up to a private phone line. That sounds kind of ancient, doesn't it? So I could communicate, he said, with a wide range of friends directly without it going through the State Department. I even used it to do business with some foreign leaders and some of the senior folks in the department on their personal email accounts. I did the same thing on the road in hotels. There's a real danger if it is public that you have a BlackBerry, and it is, and the government says you're using it, government or not, to do business, it may become an official record and subject to law. And so don't use a BlackBerry. That's what Colin Powell recommended to her. Yet the fact Hillary Clinton emailed through a private server and didn't use it to cover anything up is somehow the defining issue of her campaign. My God, people cry. Anyone else would be in jail. Oh, they wouldn't. Because there have been plenty of people who have done worse who aren't in jail. Of course, they're men. Is the real scandal that her family runs but does not profit from a charitable foundation awarded an A grade by all the charity watching organizations and that's responsible for helping 435 million people in 180 countries get things like clean drinking water and HIV medication? And today I saw a post on Facebook that had Chelsea Clinton there, who is in charge of the Clinton Foundation basically now. And they said the only reason she did anything, has ever done anything, is because the Clintons have made it possible for her, and that she hasn't had to work hard or she hasn't had to commit herself or anything like that. And that's a bunch of crap. If you listen to the girl talk, she is bright. She is dedicated. She is well educated and well informed, and she explained how when she was young, her mother and father had her take sides in various issues that they would propose to her, and she had to defend them or attack them and do it logically and have all of her answers and all of her decisions be based on logic and what's best for the individuals involved, especially for the people. Back in the mid-90s, Clinton's persistent unwillingness to hide the fact that she was a thinking human female, yeah, really freaked the center-left establishment out. There were plenty of people like Michael Moore or Maureen McDowell or people like that who supposedly were liberal. And they thought, still, she's attracting attention that she shouldn't have and that she's still stepping out of her position where she should be. Jon Stewart even called Clinton recently a bright woman without the courage of her convictions. And he said he didn't even know what they were. And when he said that, a lot of people immediately jumped on that. Aha! See, even Jon Stewart thinks there's something wrong with Hillary Clinton. There is a very lengthy trail of public records that point in the same direction. If you can't figure out which direction, well, maybe the problem is not Hillary. Maybe it's the people who are looking to find something wrong. Many on the left who gladly voted, like for John Kerry 2 years after he voted to authorize the Iraq War, say they couldn't vote for Clinton because she did too. Well, she's a woman. It's really time to stop pretending that this is about substance. This is about an eagerness to believe that a woman who seeks power will say or do anything to get it. Now, isn't that awful when you think about that? A man seeking power and willing to do anything is just doing what a man ought to do. But if a woman does that, there's something wrong. She's up to something insidious or dirty. And she's willing to sleep with anybody or anything else. That's what they always say, too, in order to get where she wants to get. Consider for a moment two people. One, as a young woman at the beginning of a promising legal career, went door to door searching for ways to guarantee an education to countless disabled and disadvantaged children who had kind of fallen through the cracks. The other, a young millionaire, didn't do anything worthwhile. He even exacted revenge on a recently deceased brother's family by cutting off medical insurance that they needed to treat a nephew for a blood disease that was very severe. But because Trump didn't like his brother and his brother's family, he would not help. So which one of those people you think is the decent human being? Have you seen anything in Donald Trump that makes you say, boy, now there's a decent human being? The only things I've heard are things like even assholes look at Donald Trump and say, boy, that guy's an asshole. He's the asshole of assholes. Maybe the deck's stacked, but the real conspiracy with Hillary is controlled by forces who are manipulating you into voting third party or even worse, to not vote at all. And they're coming out with these WikiLeaks things and stuff like that to make you say, aha, see, I knew Hillary was crooked. So at the same time, they've been working for 25 years to get something on her. They've spent $500 million, and these are Republican prosecutors and people like that. They've convinced you with no real evidence, there is none, that she's crooked. But the reason is because they fear her. The reason they fear her is because she is the most competent person, the most educated, the most prepared person who has ever run for the presidency. Trump called Obama a liar and a non-citizen, and then finally has given in and said, well, no, I guess he's not. I guess he really is a citizen. Well, if that's the case, then why did he spend so many years trying to establish the fact that Obama was a Muslim and a non-citizen? Well, it was just because that was Trump trying to accomplish things for Trump. And the main thing Trump is trying to accomplish for Trump is to make money somehow, any way that he can. And people believe that sort of stuff, those of you who hate Hillary, because that satisfies your paradigm as a hater. What may seem crooked if Hillary has been evasive is that she's been undercover and seemed to go along with the slimy elite of Wall Street and Big Pharma and the corporate elite. But what she has been doing in actuality is building an infrastructure that will save us all once she's president. She knows where bodies are buried, but she hadn't buried any. And that's why the conservative spin machine has been working overtime to discredit her, because they're scared. They're scared to death of her. They know that when it comes down to it, she will not be afraid to expose their corruption. They don't have any supportive evidence for anything they've said, but they keep saying it, hoping that if they repeat it enough, people will believe it. She scares the corporate elite and their pet right-wingers in Congress so totally. That should, instead of causing you to doubt her, fill you with optimism. She's a brilliant tactician and observer and has built a web which can't be unraveled. The existence of that web scares the military-industrial complex to their roots and will stymie the Kochs and all the network of corrupt wealth that they've constructed and turned politics into something you won't believe. You won't believe. An honest machine dedicated to improving the lives of all of us, no longer a machine to generate more wealth for all the paid representatives and all the congressmen who get money from the lobbyists. But it will instead be an organization of individuals who, in spite of themselves, either because they're decent human beings or because of enlightened self-interest, will be dedicated to public service. Isn't that what politicians are supposed to be? Now, I'll talk about term limits sometime. No congressman should be in office for more than 12 years. So that would be 6 terms for 6 terms for congressmen and 2 terms for senators. They don't have as much chance to get corrupted that way. And I know Hillary is good, and I know Hillary is decent. I feel it in my bones, in my heart, and my gut. And now you should know too. You know, at the Vancouver Peace Conference in 2009, the Dalai Lama made a profound prediction, which has upset Republicans and misogynists the world over. And that statement was that a Western woman, or the Western woman, or Western women in general, would save the world. Well, of course, there's going to be a lot that are going to vote for her, so that will help. This has been the subject of debate, not only between men, but also between women the world over. And not just between misogynists, but also between those who claim to love and revere women, but believe they need to be regulated and protected from themselves and from their hormones and all that kind of stuff. And that according to holy books, they are to be servants of their husbands and other men, not power brokers or generators. Some women have said that it has led to a feeling of superiority amongst women who feel empowered and superior once they hear that statement. Well, I'm a biologist, retired, but I taught biology for 23 years. I've always considered women to be superior. And when ecologists, for instance, do population studies, the females are the members of the population we count. Why is that? Because they're the ones who count. They're the ones who produce babies. But that doesn't mean they've got to just, they do some nurturing. Yes, they have to nurture the babies when they're there. But if they don't have babies, they contribute a lot to the population anyway. As civilization has progressed, men have been faced with the truth that females really had much more influence overall on what their children, for instance, became than they did. And they realized the only way to assure their place at the table, if you will, was to subject women to one type or another of marginalization. So holy books, stories and proclamations and traditions early on sought to minimize the potential contributions of women to society overall, and to elevate males to a position of superiority in the eyes of everyone that they could influence regardless of gender. In some countries, this minimization was seldom questioned by women, but in others it became a sore point, especially after women were allowed to become educated. Oh my gosh. Something which the early misogynists resisted strongly because they feared that with an educated female population, their position of superiority would become subject to question, and with good reason. Early on, it was seen that queens and empresses ruled as well or better than kings or emperors, though they could be foolish as well, as we saw with Marie Antoinette and her statement of "let them eat cake," which practically began the French Revolution. As time passed, Western women in England and elsewhere, such as the United States, became more educated and wondered rightly why they were not allowed to do such things as vote, and started women's suffrage movements campaigning for the right to vote and equal work for equal pay, etc. Very smart and confident women totally rankled the psyches of male supremacists, who counted many conservative preachers and politicians, of course, among their numbers. Hillary Clinton's been taught for been a target for those egotistical fools for decades, along with Elizabeth Warren and others, while women like Michelle Obama were also the target of white supremacists. And this has all been a shameful period in our history. But these cretins are so insecure has managed to make the lives of powerful women uncomfortable, but overall they've maintained their composure, which is more than can be said for the misogynistic morons who have constantly persecuted them. I've considered the statement made by the Dalai Lama and decided that he did not mean necessarily all Western women. He may have meant a couple of Western women capable of representing all Western women, or the Western women who are going to vote for them. I say these two are Hillary Clinton, and once the Senate is taken back by Democrats, Elizabeth Warren. So I'm supporting Clinton Kaine for the presidential elections in 2016, and I think Elizabeth Warren should have a major position in the democratically controlled Senate, because I think it may just be possible that at this critical juncture in our civilization's history, they can save our world. And for sure, at least, they can save it from Trump. Thank you.